Everybody on the ground.
I was dismembering the body, and while cutting it up, I decided to try it.
Out of these men in the cells, a third of them will go crazy. Had they executed me, it would have spared me all this torture. So you knew in advance that you would kill her?
Yes, exactly.
Escaping is impossible. With these bars, all of the constant alarms, always being watched, it's simply not possible.
Buried in Russia's frozen Orenburg steppe, a few miles from the Kazakh border, sits a fortress with a playful statue at the gate and nightmares behind the walls. They call it Black Dolphin, home only to individuals serving life sentences, commonly known as lifers. No second chances, no soft landings, and for decades, not even the thought of escape, until one rare incident in 2016. But we'll get to that later. Could you survive a week inside this hellhole?
Black Dolphin is a final destination. You can't go any further. Yes, technically, there is a way to leave this place, but only one way. The cemetery.
Picture the intake process. When a new prisoner arrives, they're bent at the waist, hands cupped high behind their back, blindfold on.
Why the blindfolds? Well, so the inmate does not have an opportunity to learn our movements, our location in the building, or on the territory.
Guards march you through echoing corridors so you never memorize the layout. Your new home is a box inside a box. Steel bars inside concrete, watched by cameras and officers who check your door every few minutes. You stand for most of your waking day. You speak only when told. This frozen hell has its own deadly cast of characters. Monsters, who will be your new prison mates, and the authorities who claim they're here to reform you. Who is the inmate nicknamed the Ogre? And why did he try frying human flesh in his kitchen? What really happens if you cross the guards? Do you just lose privileges? Or something worse? If nobody escapes Black Dolphin, what happened in 2016 when a prisoner slipped away from a work detail? Black Dolphin is the unofficial name for Penal Colony Number 6, aka IK6, in Solovets, Orenburg Oblast. Its roots go back to the 18th century, when an ostrog, or stockade prison, was built under Catherine the Great. Around 2000, it was retooled as a special regime prison for life sentences. Officially, it holds only lifers, but sometimes people convicted of lesser crimes, often from the Orenburg region, end up there too. Imagine doing time alongside cannibals and serial killers. Hope you're really sorry for jaywalking. Today, Black Dolphin houses roughly 700 of Russia's most dangerous murderers. Together, they're believed to have committed around 3,500 murders, an average of 5 per inmate. It's one of several prisons nationwide reserved for those serving life without parole since Russia's 1990s moratorium on executions. The freeze, introduced in 1996 as part of Russia's bid to join the Council of Europe, meant death sentences were automatically reduced to life terms. Think of it as the end of the line in a system that still carries a heavy Soviet footprint, with emphasis on control, punishment, and isolation. Black Dolphin's known for its harsh winters and freezing cold temperatures. Layer in sensors, watchtowers, razor wire, and procedures that deny inmates any mental map, and you have yourself an inescapable frozen hell.
Ну, здесь условия содержания очень жесткие. Находясь здесь, понимаешь, что ты никогда не выйдешь на волю.
The majority of your time as an inmate is spent here, a tiny cage within a cage. Each cell is protected by a set of 3 cell doors. Yeah, they don't take any chances here. Most inmates see little of each other, and high-risk prisoners are usually kept alone. Though in some rare cases, 2 convicts cram into the same 50-square-foot cell. That's about the size of a storage closet. Cameras keep watch at all times, the lights are never off, and guards check in constantly. At Black Dolphin Prison, privacy is almost non-existent. And with so many sites tracking your data, the internet can feel just as scary. Thankfully, today's video sponsor, CyberGhost VPN, can help with this. With over 38 million users worldwide and over 20,000 users rating it excellent on Trustpilot, CyberGhost is a no-brainer when it comes to online privacy. You might think incognito mode is enough to protect you, but your internet provider, your job, your coffee shop's Wi-Fi, and so many websites can track your personal data. When I'm traveling, I don't want my browsing history or logins exposed on hotel or airport Wi-Fi. Even CyberGhost doesn't use any logs, so my activity is never recorded. With servers in over 100 countries, a single CyberGhost account lets you protect up to 7 devices, including your phone, laptop, and even your smart TV. It also helps break out of those annoying geo-restrictions, unlocking libraries across more than 40 streaming platforms, including Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and Disney+. And you can even score better deals online by simply changing your virtual location. Right now, CyberGhost VPN is available for $2.03 a month, plus 4 free months. That's 84% off. There's even a 45-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. If you're serious about online privacy like I am, scan the QR code to grab your discount or visit the link in the description. Now, back to Black Dolphin.
You are constantly being filmed in your cell. Plus, every 15 minutes, a guard goes through the cells. So you must constantly be attentive.
Every cell door carries a plaque listing your crimes. Murder, cannibalism, terror. Your full criminal resume on display, so any sympathy the guards might feel vanishes instantly. Inside, tattoos are another resume. Stars on the shoulders, churches inked on the chest, barbed wire around the wrists. These aren't fashion statements. They're rank insignia in a criminal underworld that works like the John Wick high table. At the bottom are the untouchables, inmates convicted of crimes against children, often kept apart to survive. For decades, the myth held. No one can escape Black Dolphin. But in October 2016, that streak ended. Sort of. Alexander Alexandrov, a thief with less than a year left on his sentence, slipped away while working at a cinder block plant. He wasn't in the ultra-secure core of the prison, but rather in a lower security settlement area where inmates with lesser sentences could move more freely. Still, it was the prison's first recorded escape. Here's perhaps the scariest part of all of this, and something inmates thinking about an escape all have in the back of their heads. Alexandrov just sort of disappeared. Newspapers stopped reporting the event as if he never existed. Sure, maybe he did make it to freedom, or maybe Russian authorities found him and decided he needed to learn a lesson the hard way. Just saying is all. Arriving at Black Dolphin is like slamming into a wall. Your day starts at 6 a.m. and you're expected to stand by your bunk immediately. For roughly 16 hours, you're not allowed to sit or lie down unless a guard gives permission. You're only given a brief 90-minute window to exercise in a larger cage each day. Every order gets a military-style, "Yes, sir," response, and mistakes get instant correction. 4 times a day, meals consisting of only plain soup and bread are pushed through a small hatch in the door.
There is no dining hall for life sentence prisoners. Their food is taken directly to their cells.
It's repetitive, suffocating, and deliberately designed to grind you down. In Black Dolphin, survival starts with pure discipline. Follow orders exactly. No backtalk, no stepping out of line. Move the way guards expect, and never test the schedule. Your mind will be your next battleground. Keep it busy. Read, meditate, memorize chess moves. Lifers cling to routines like lifelines, and the library becomes a rare escape. In cramped cells, peace comes from respecting space, avoiding pointless arguments, and never provoking your cellmate, especially when they could be a terrorist or cannibal. When you're in the tiny caged exercise yard, don't just stand there. Move. Do push-ups, squats, walk in circles. Anything to keep your body active and your mind clear. Finally, guard your health. With limited medical care and risks like tuberculosis and HIV, report symptoms early. Waiting can be deadly. In Black Dolphin, survival isn't always about strength. It's about discipline, adaptability, and protecting body and mind in a place built to break both. And trust me, when you're housed with Russia's absolute worst of the worst, you'll need to keep your wits about you at all times. If you know one Black Dolphin inmate by name, odds are it's Vladimir Nikolayev, who's also known as the Ogre, and for good reason. According to court records and a National Geographic interview, after killing a man during a drunken brawl in 1997, he dismembered the body in his apartment and cooked parts of the flesh.
I cut off his head, arms, legs. All of a sudden, something kind of struck me, and I thought I would try him.
And that's not even the worst part.
I gave some meat to one of my friends. She made dumplings with it. She had some herself and fed it to her children.
Vladimir had told his friend it was kangaroo meat. It was the moment Black Dolphin's already frightening reputation was given a chilling image. Nikolayev wasn't just a killer, but the face of a prison built to contain such people. Russia's 1990s execution moratorium spared him from a firing squad. Instead, he got life in a living hell, with lights on all the time, cameras always watching, and guards with him everywhere. By the way, Nikolayev isn't even in his own twisted lair alone. He shares that cramped cell with another lifer. Imagine lying there every night, wondering if the Ogre is craving more of that kangaroo meat.
The main crime committed by the convicts here is murder.
Также здесь содержатся маньяки,
But we also have maniacs,
педофилы,
pedophiles,
террористы.
and terrorists.
In the 1990s, the Russian city of Tolyatti wasn't exactly a safe place for children, and Oleg Rylkov was the reason why. He had a way of turning normal, everyday moments into traps. A knock at the door asking for help, a request to use the phone. Harmless until the door opened. In a chilling interview with the Russian federal television channel, Daryal TV, Rylkov gives a peek into his monstrous mind.
I lured the girl into the forest on the outskirts of the city, and there I killed her.
Rylkov earned the name the Tolyatti Ripper, like Jack the Ripper, for heavily mutilating his victims. His murder weapon of choice? An axe. Yeesh. According to court records, Rylkov's spree lasted from 1992 to 1997. In that time, he assaulted at least 37 minors and murdered 12. The numbers vary by source, but the horror is the same. This wasn't a ghost story. It was a failure in policing. Post-Soviet law enforcement was underfunded, forensics didn't have the necessary equipment, and crimes crossing regional borders slipped through the cracks. On June 30th, 1996, police caught Rylkov in a counterfeit money sting after he tried to use a fake $100,000 ruble note at a clothing market. He gave officers a false name, Alexander Yaschenko, and was let go on the condition that he wouldn't leave the area. Days later, the real Yaschenko turned up at the prosecutor's office, his cover blown. A facial composite followed on the heels of another brutal murder, and about a year later, on July 1st, 1997, police arrested him in Tolyatti. This time, there was no hiding. The details of his crimes sent shockwaves across the press. When asked later if he'd planned his murders, Rylkov didn't hesitate.
But you knew that she knew,
Yes,
and you still went through with it.
yes,
So you knew in advance that you would kill her.
yes, exactly.
A court initially sentenced him to death, but he was spared by Russia's execution moratorium. Instead, he was handed life in prison and sent to Black Dolphin, the only place for a man guilty of multiple murders and crimes involving children. Inside, Rylkov's nightmare didn't end. Russian prison culture has its own black book hierarchy, and those convicted of crimes against children are at the absolute bottom. They face constant threats from other inmates and often have to live in isolation for their own survival. The knock for help trick is still told in whispers among parents, a grim reminder that in the chaos of the 1990s, sometimes the only thing between a predator and a child was a locked chain on the door. If Rylkov was every parent's nightmare, Yuri Tsiuman is a criminology textbook case. He's the man behind the moniker the Black Tights Killer, known for his twisted fetish for pantyhose. Case summaries credit him with 4 to 5 murders and 1 attempted murder starting in 1986 and peaking in the early 90s. He was apprehended in November 1992 after a passerby intervened during an assault. Why this case draws continued attention is the pattern. Pantyhose, used to strangle or left on victims, became Yuri's calling card. In 1994, the court sentenced him to death. Once again, Russia's execution moratorium saw the penalty reduced, or worsened, depending on who you ask, to life behind bars. From there, his fate was sealed. He became yet another name on Black Dolphin's grim roll call, locked away alongside some of the most dangerous and notorious criminals the country has ever produced.
I remember all my crimes. All of them. That's the worst punishment.
Next on the list of Black Dolphin's most twisted is Andrei Melyukh, aka the Brick Maniac. His crimes stand out for a different reason. He didn't stalk dark alleys at nightclubs. He hunted in the daylight, following a pattern hidden in plain sight.
All 3 attacks had the same signature. The stairwell, elderly women, a blow to the head.
From 2000 to 2002 in Chelyabinsk, Melyukh targeted elderly women, trailing them from grocery stores or markets, and striking them with a stone or brick as they unlocked their doors.
When I came to, I was lying on the floor, in a pool of blood. I was covered in blood, and my head was spinning.
He'd rob their homes for whatever he could find. A few rubles, some food, small valuables. 10 women died. Another 10 were left seriously injured.
These weren't just crimes against the elderly, this was inhuman. Beasts in human form.
The most unsettling part wasn't just the violence. It was how ordinary it all looked. A man carrying a shopping bag, a quiet stairwell, someone fishing for their keys in a handbag. Melyukh blended into the background of everyday life, using its familiar rhythms as the perfect disguise.
This camouflage clothing, in a way, gave rise to a misunderstanding for the victim. That is, if an elderly woman sees them dressed in this uniform, like soldiers, she trusts that no danger could come from them.
For years, investigators had almost no clues to latch onto. Survivors often couldn't remember his face due to head injuries, and the quickness of his attacks left little physical evidence. But patterns began to emerge. Same type of victims, same attack method, similar locations.
Investigators tried to understand the motives of the criminal. By what principle did he choose his victims? Could the main thing really have been a bag of groceries in a woman's hands, or was it all decided by age?
Everything changed in February 2002, when neighbors spotted a man in a camouflage jacket fleeing the scene of a failed attack, and police moved fast before the lead went cold.
He had no way of knowing that backup was approaching from all sides, dozens of officers. Realizing there was nowhere to run, he tried to break through with force. The scuffle was short. In seconds, detectives had him restrained.
Once caught, Melyukh confessed to the string of attacks. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole and sent to Black Dolphin. Not all monsters hide in forests. Sometimes they walk right behind you on the stairs. But it's not only the inmates you need to fear at Black Dolphin. The Russian prison system itself has a long, brutal legacy, one that still casts a shadow over every inmate's life. Between 2021 and 2022, Russia's prison network was rocked by a massive leak of videos from its facilities showing torture and sexual assaults. These gruesome clips were secretly smuggled out by a former inmate named Sergei Savelyev. Sentenced to 9 years in Saratov prison following a drug conviction, Savelyev covertly copied hundreds of gigabytes of graphic footage while working in the prison's office and sent it to the human rights group gulagu.net after his release. The footage sparked national investigations, firings, and ultimately the removal of the federal prison chief. This wasn't about one prison. It exposed systemic cruelty. Black Dolphin is famous for its strict rules, but it exists in a system with two very different faces. The state presents Black Dolphin as clean, strict, and efficient, but reports tell a darker story. Across Russia's prisons, beatings, electrocutions, and torture are common. Investigations by the US State Department and news outlets like The Guardian describe electric shocks, mock executions, and systematic abuse. Not always at Black Dolphin, but within the wider system. Across Russia, hundreds of thousands are locked up in facilities where the problems haven't changed much since the Gulag. Crumbling buildings, forced labor for a handful of rubles, strict discipline valued over rehabilitation, and health crises like tuberculosis and HIV. Black Dolphin is the sharpest, most unforgiving tip of that spear. Constant lights, endless checks, and exercise in a cage-like pen. Public portrayals highlight a spotless order that says, everything's fine. After the 2021 torture leaks, some officials were fired, but real reform in a harsh prison regime like Russia's is hard to measure from the outside. Visits are rare and heavily regulated. Religious spaces exist, but the place feels more like a preserved exhibit than a home for rehabilitation. Today, life here means vanishing into a system built for control, not change. If you think Black Dolphin is brutal, wait until you see the infamous Sikot prison, where the suffocating El Salvador heat is just as punishing as the Russian cold is relentless. It's a whole different kind of survival game. A huge thanks to our sponsor, CyberGhost VPN. If you want to protect your online privacy like I do and get full access to all blocked content on the internet, scan the QR code now or click the link in the description for our exclusive discount of up to 84% off. Totally risk-free, so check it out. Link in the description. See you in the next video. Until then, stay safe, stay informed, and keep watching How to Survive.